Welcome to the MNCPPC, Department of Parks and Recreation's virtual New Year, New You Nutrition Workshop Series. Get ready to experience a fun, interactive, and educational session with a certified nutritionist. In this session, you will discover ways to make healthier choices as you set your personal goals to start the new year off right. Be sure to share what you learned during this session with a friend or family member.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the New Year, New You virtual workshop series. My name is Yolanda Galloway, and I am a Health and Wellness Coordinator with the Department of Parks and Recreation, Prince George's County. Before we begin tonight, I just want to briefly touch on some housekeeping items for you. First, I want to draw your attention to the mute button. The mute button is there on the screen at the bottom there, and this will allow you to turn your microphone off or on. And we do ask that you remember, if you have your microphone on, that there could be some distractions throughout the program. So to help us eliminate distractions, we would ask that you remain muted. Next, I want to draw your attention to the camera icon there on the bottom of your screen. Now, this icon allows you to turn your camera off or on. You can decide to keep it on or turn it off. But again, we want to eliminate any distractions. And so if you have your camera on, anything that happens on your camera, on your end, we can see. So let's just remember, we want to focus on what's being presented by our speaker on this evening. The last icon I want to draw your attention is the chat box. And the chat box is that little conversation icon there at the top of your screen. It's a little circle now. It's been updated. So you can click on that button and it will take you to the screen you see next. And that's going to be the chat box. And there's where you'll enter any questions, any comments, just any fun information that our speaker may ask you to put in, and you can hit enter. And we'll be able to see that and be able to engage with you on this evening. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker for tonight. She is no stranger to our program, Miss Leslie Jefferson. She is a certified nutrition specialist with a master's degree in nutrition and integrative health. She finds joy in motivating others using a personalized nutrition approach, emphasizing nutrient-dense foods. As a community health manager and nutritionist with Giant Food, Leslie cultivates innovative food as medicine programming and provides nutrition education lectures and classes. When it's time to relax, Leslie loves to line dance, travel, cook, and exercise with a good hit video. Welcome, Leslie.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me yet again. And we're going to continue on our wellness journey, and we're going to continue on with mindfulness today. So being mindful, watch out. We're going to dig deep today. I'm going to ask you to do some thinking about yourself and your relationship with food. But before we get started, I'm going to pull up my screen. And as we know, this is always the fun part. Let's see, I have to give myself some different settings here. Let's see. I'm going to have to make some changes. 1 second. So we're going to disconnect a few things. And we will start again. All right. There we go. All right, so let's share our screen. Let's see, I should be presenting. Just having a lot of fun today with the sharing. All right, so hopefully you can see my screen. So with that, today we are going to talk about mindful eating. Unfortunately, I cannot see the chat today. This is not making me very happy, but we're going to keep rolling through this. If one of the folks from PG Parks can monitor the chat, I would greatly appreciate it.
All right. So on today's agenda, we're going to talk about mindfulness. We're going to talk about shopping. We're going to talk about cooking. And in between, we're going to learn a lot of little things about what it means to be mindful and really what it means to you. So we're going to really explore habits. We're going to explore a couple of things that really maybe hinder our goals, so that we can be successful on the other end. So how many of you are still exploring your why? If you were with us over the last 2 weeks, we were exploring our goals. We were doing some goal setting. We were exploring why making changes to our health was important to us. And then we looked at also the 5 P's, which is the plate. We always talk about half plate produce and grains, proteins, and fats. We went on Nutrition 101. So who's keeping a food diary? Who's still doing their homework? Anything? You could put it in the chat. I'll just try to see if I can't see the chat. So sorry, ladies. So if you are able to share that you are able to keep your food diary going, that's very important overall. So you can start looking at how we construct our plate. So last week we also talked about portion. We're going to keep talking about that. We're going to talk about how much you're eating and also the preparation. We talked about that last week, eating out, cooking at home, the different ways that you can create meals at home so that you can cut down on things like fat, excess sugars. And we also talked about, we'll talk about physical activity next week, but we talked about that 3-month cell turnover for our bodies and how important it is to stick with this and be patient with yourself. We also talked about those carbs, the carbohydrates per meal, and one of those quick, easy ways that you can help yourself to reach the goals. So did anyone check out start reading a food label or two for some of their favorite items to really kind of take a look at what they're eating and how it could be impacting their goals? If there's anything in the chat for that, please share. If there's something that you said, oh, I wasn't sure of, or wow, I didn't know this had that many carbs in it. If you had something that was really a surprise to you and how it could impact your diet. And I'm going to pause there for just a second in case somebody's typing. And did anyone have any goals that they really sat down and kind of looked at their goals and went over the goal setting sheet? Here's someone there trying to talk. No? Well, all right. Remember the 5 P's, and remember keeping those carbohydrates per meal is very, very important. All right. So we're always going to try to drill this in week after week so that we can make sure that we're sticking with our goals and trying to make those changes that we might be looking for our diet. So overall, let's talk a little bit about improving this meal. So we have a curried chicken and rice with minted yogurt. What can we add or change or remove from this meal to make it even more nutritious to help us meet our goals? And you could throw it in the chat. If Miss Yolanda, Miss Julia, or Miss Evelyn could let me know what's coming through the chat, I'd appreciate it. What could we add to this, or what changes could we make to this dish so that we are making it more nutrient dense? We got some broccoli in there, some chicken, a little tomato sauce. We got some rice. What could we do? Looks like it's pretty balanced, but can we still improve upon it?
We have used cauliflower rice,
Yep.
more vegetables, take out white rice.
Yep. Definitely. So we could also add a side salad to this. So that's something else you could do. You could always add more green leafy vegetables. And you can even take out the rice in total and put it on a bed of leafy greens. So it's another, some restaurants are doing that now. You could go if you have like a normal pasta dish, they may even offer it over spinach because when you offer that, the sauces will then let those leafy greens, especially the softer baby greens, will wilt underneath. So you can have that as a substitute. So yeah, you could do a lot of different things. And I definitely add a lot more broccoli to this and a lot more cauliflower to this meal. So we want that to be primarily your carbohydrate that takes over the meal. So our vegetables and fruit, if you have not been on the call, are carbohydrates. So in addition to the rice, the way to get more carbs in the meal that are more nutrient dense are to add more vegetables. Okay, I'm gonna pause there. Any questions? Because we're about to move into mindfulness. All right.
Nothing so far, Leslie.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So what is mindful eating? I mean, you hear about it all the time. It's all of a sudden it's become this new buzzword. But when we are born, technically, we are all born as mindful eaters. So when children are full, what do? They just kind of stop eating, right? What do children do when they're full and they don't want more food? Or what do children do when they are hungry? They let us know. So it's important to listen to your body. And that is one thing we can learn from kids is that they are very aware of when they're full and when they're hungry. So it's being able to, the fancy word is to assess your hunger cues, and we're going to talk about ways to do that because then you hear so many different times that people are emotional eaters. Do I have any emotional eaters on the call today? Emotional eaters. What are you triggered by and that causes you to eat? What situations causes you to eat? So, if you have some particular situation that causes you to eat more or less, that is kind of what we're looking at. We were looking at last week more of the science of food, what are the macronutrients, how to create a plate. Now we're diving more into the emotional side of eating. So how to choose? Yes, we got
We do
something.
have some. Yep, we do have some comments. One person shared though mindful eating, something that they didn't observe during some previous snowstorms. But some things that actually cause people, some of those things you were speaking of is, boredom, anxiety, stress at work, social eating. Um,
Yes.
Someone else mentioned the snow day, right? Being in the house on a snow day with nothing to do but watch TV and eat.
Mm-hmm.
Watching TV, I like to snack, just part of the experience of watching TV,
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the comments we're seeing so far.
Oh, no, those are wonderful comments. Yeah. And even now that we're back to sort of kind of being with friends and family, we could be having more gatherings where we're just together, snacking and eating and enjoying. So that may take you off your road to wellness also. So those are fantastic examples of, some people would say, when we are being mindless in our eating, but I look at it as opportunities to be mindful in your eating habits. So those are fantastic situational patterns to really focus on. And we're going to go a little deeper with that.
And Miss Hewlett stressed the word stress. It'll do
Stress.
it.
I know. I had a stressful day today, and yeah, there was a cookie over there, and yeah, I had to have it. So I totally understand what you mean with that, because when we are stressed, there are different reactions in the body, and our bodies crave energy. And if we are constantly stressed, that is when our fight or flight, such our fight or flight brain takes over, and that takes energy. And so many times there's also a physical reaction to stress, and eating can, for some, be a comfort. And those of us that know, that that is our pattern, finding a way to quell the stress is one of the ways that you can, kind of curtail the other habits that may help you so that you're not reaching your goals. So that brings us into mindless eating, right? So that means you might not be paying attention to how much. So who's gone by, opened a bag of something or this or the other, and then all of a sudden realize it's gone already? And you didn't even notice that it was done, that the bag was empty, or you had to get another bowl of it. So that some mindless eating patterns are when you don't pay attention to those kinds of things and you don't realize that you've eaten it all. And it's also you've eaten it all and you weren't even hungry. Has anybody experienced that? I was eating, but I'm not even hungry. Why am I eating? It's always a question to ask yourself, especially for those stressful times. And there is a time when we are influenced by others, right? That's goes to this self-determination theory. It's behavior that's influenced by outside forces, work, family, finance. So all of those things that cause us stress can also influence our eating habits. So all of the things snowstorms, all of those things can influence how and when and what you eat. That may not be the time when you go and you reach for the kale salad. That's the time when you reach for the cookie, like I did. So it's mindfulness and mindlessness, but we're going to now talk about some different ways that impacts us overall. And how we treat ourselves is very important. It's more about, there are different times when eating is we find that it's beneficial, and then there's times when we are not so kind to ourselves about some of the choices we make. So it can happen in a variety of scenarios, and it happens in the beginning of the year when we make a resolution. I'm going to make change. I'm going to do this diet for this long. That's my New Year's resolution. And I'm not going to eat anything, no, I'm not going to eat any carbs. I'm not going to eat any sweets, right? So it's all or nothing. I'm not going to do any of those things. So sometimes we could come out on the other side as deprived. Has anybody experienced that where you're like, oh, I gotta have it? And then you go all in. The other times we do this to ourselves, and anybody, we've all done it. I was good today. I was bad today. I frequently was have consultations with folks and they'll ask, what did you ask about yesterday? It was so bad. So listening to the words that we say to ourselves is very important. There is no good or there is no bad. There just is. And looking to the next day or the next meal is another way to make sure that you can stay on track. One of the 5 P's is patience, having some patience with yourself. And then sometimes when we may get a diagnosis, let's say you went to the doctor and they said, oh, your glucose is high or your A1C or you're going to be on medication soon, or, there may be some, weight loss journey that you want to take on. And you begin to feel like food is not your friend and you don't know what to eat. You feel confused. And that's when you feel extremely, you're stressed in regular life and you're stressed about your health and then you're stressed about what's on your plate. So then the whole food eating becomes a real challenge. But in mindful eating, we want to flip that around and begin to think positively about each meal. And even if we're having what we would consider something that's going against our goals, we can have that meal, say, I have another meal I can start over with. Listening and learning to yourself. All right, I'm going to pause there because this is a big one. And if you really think about your relationship with food, especially that good food, bad food, I was bad, I could have done better. I really want you to start listening to how you talk to yourself around food. And throughout these 4 weeks, there's lots of things that we're going to talk about. So 1 or 2 things, pick them, focus on it, and so that you don't feel overwhelmed. That's the other thing. You can feel overwhelmed with some of this. So pick 1 or 2 things to work on, stick with that, and then that gives you a good grasp. So I'm going to pause here because, again, I can't see the chat. I don't know what happened. Can't see the chat. All right. So when we are mindful eaters, this means we don't feel the guilt. We do not feel the guilt. We feel as though we are, in control of what we're eating. We feel confident about our choices. Snacking is something that we, feel okay with because we can control it. And normally when you are out of control with your eating, unless there are many more things going on, usually snacks are where people kind of notice that things are a little out of control because we tend to snack on those pretzels or the popcorn or the chips or the cookies or, the candies that we like. And those are the foods that usually first kind of give us a hint that maybe we need to make some adjustments. But then there's another step where you could say, oh, I'm eating plate after plate of food. That is a whole nother way to look at whether or not you're being mindful or not. Are you eating until you are full and satisfied, or are you eating till you're over the limit? And do you walk away from a meal feeling I made a good choice? I'm on my way to my goals and I feel good about the choices I've made. All right. So one of the things that's very interesting about mindfulness is habits. And a lot of us have habits around food. And we're just going to talk a little bit about habits. And I love, I'm dating myself because the program has been off television for a long time, but I always remember the popcorn and wine scenario with Scandal. If you watch Scandal, Olivia Pope always had her popcorn and wine. And if you notice, her portion was huge, right? She had a big glass of wine, big bowl of popcorn. And, that was consciously placed in the program. And there's a book called Atomic Habits. Is by James Clear. It's an excellent book on habits and how we come to have these habits form in our lives and have them stay. Also, Sex and the City brought forth the Cosmo. Cosmo was a dead beverage. And then all of a sudden, everybody was ordering Cosmo. So we're kind of programmed in certain ways by either media, marketing, and then our own in personal environments help us to create habits. And then generally there is some sort of cue that happens. It's a trigger. Someone mentioned watching TV. So if you sit down, you watch TV, you normally have X, Y, and Z with you to watch TV. Even if you don't have that thing to start, it can cause a craving to occur. Something's missing. And then you get up and you go get it and you feel complete because now you can watch TV and you have that thing. But what we want to do is replace some of those. We still have our cue, but we want to start replacing those cravings with different items, with different activities. So if you are watching TV instead of eating, you could do something else, and then maybe you have a reward at the end. And that reward can be any small item. Doesn't necessarily have to be food as a reward. So looking at where you're creating habits is very important. And then where can you interrupt the habit that may be hindering your goals? So I'm going to try and play a video. Cross your fingers. This is another book that I read. Is called Badass Habits. And not necessarily in a bad way. It's, about being a badass. So Jen Scenario is, she wrote the book, and she's going to talk a little bit about that trigger, the cue, and how we create habits and ways that you can kind of take it outside of yourself to make improvements. So let's cross our fingers that everything works, and I'm going to click the button.
Welcome, Jen. Thank you so much for coming on Moms Don't Have Time to Read. But
we're going to move this forward. Here we go.
And so I just sort of outlined that, and then with the triggers and the sequence and all that, there is a very, very concrete way that habits happen. It's like the trigger is you want to take your dog for a walk. So the sequence starts with you putting on your shoes and putting the leash on the dog, and then you go out for the walk. And we're unaware of so many of these trigger sequence things that we've got going on. And so for a lot of people, a negative habit is the trigger is I'm having a cocktail, now I got to have a cigarette. So becoming aware of the triggers and the sequences that follow them allow you to unhook from them. So it really is just like, it's almost like stepping outside of yourself and watching yourself behave. And then you can be like, you know what, that's not how I want to show up, and that's not who I want to be. And then that empowers you to make different choices.
That was the other thing I thought was so great, was how to identify a habit worth breaking. And you outlined a couple of steps for 4 different parts of this, which made it even harder for me to pick my habit. But you said, pick habits. 1, it would give you a sense of being the person you're meant to be, a sense of empowerment, an improved quality of life, and a sense of accomplishment. So like some of the habits I was thinking before I started reading this book are not that important to like who I'm meant to be, right? Like how I eat is not who I'm meant to be. I mean, I would like to stop snacking at night, but that's such a minor thing. It wouldn't make me feel accomplished or proud.
Think about that though. Think about that. You have one body. that you travel around in for your finite experience on planet Earth. Your body is the most important thing you've got going. So changing how you eat and how you treat it and giving it what it needs to thrive and feel good and stay healthy is epic. Right? So those little shifts and that little, you know, and so that little shift of like not eating late at night means your little body that does all this amazing things for you doesn't have to work really hard when it's supposed to be in this regenerative mode of sleeping. And, you know, so it really is all about perspective. Give me another one. I'll knock it down.
So what do you guys think about that? And again, I apologize. I can't see the chat. So hopefully you were able to hear the video. I didn't get a thumbs down. But what are thoughts on habits and triggers and cues and breaking habit cycles?
And if you want to use the feature to raise your hand and be able to share your thoughts, that'll work too. I'm sorry about the chat, Leslie.
No, I think it's on my end. It's okay.
Or you can type it in as well. I'll read your thoughts. Someone says we need to be more aware of our triggers.
Yes. What are your triggers and what are the scenarios that occur that cause you to, you know, that set it off, right? So if you're keeping a food diary, this is a great place to log this kind of thing. So what did you eat? You know, I ate nuts all day long. You know, what was the trigger for that? What was the trigger for the cookie? What was the trigger for whatever the thing is that you're trying to make change? I didn't drink my water. I chose something else instead. What were the triggers that caused you to maybe change, not to change your behavior toward the goal that you wanted? Just didn't feel like it, you were stressed, snow day, you know, what have you. So that is one of the ways that you could drill down and really start to make changes to some of the habits that you may have, is by noticing the triggers.
Leslie, there were a few more comments. Someone said that they liked the way they tied it back to habits in this video.
Mm-hmm.
And someone else shared, I think that understanding the scenarios, right, is very important. Mm-hmm. And then another person shared that, you know, sometimes they can be a stress eater, right? There's one of those triggers. Mm-hmm. Again.
Definitely. Yeah, all of those things. And they're individual for all of us. There's no one way to do this. And when you are looking at your habits, you know, you really have to drill down. So how can we, let's see if I can not have her talk. Yay, she stopped talking. So one way that you can really, this is also from James Clear, look at making changes to your habits, looking at your triggers, things like that, is called habit stacking. And it's called habit stacking because it's taking some of those things that you already do, but inserting another habit, a new action in between. So if I have those folks that like to sit down and watch TV, you can insert a new habit there, right? So here's an example of a couple of examples here. So you can say, after I pour my cup of coffee in the morning, I will meditate for 1 minute. They didn't say an hour and a half. They said just a minute. So it's in taking things that you're already doing and finding a good place to insert a new health goal achieving action. After I take off my work shoes, I will immediately change into my workout clothes. That's what that person chose to do. After I sit down to dinner, I will say one thing I'm grateful for, right? If we feel stressed and we have a stressful day, maybe that for that person, it could help put things in perspective for them by saying one thing they're grateful for. And this is my mind that I add, right? When I make a dinner plate, I will add an extra scoop of vegetables. I will choose a taller glass for my water. So it's all about, finding ways that you can insert new habits into routines that you already have. And that can be to adjust a habit that could be interfering in your goals, or it could be a new habit that can help you to make your goals happen. So
Miss Rebecca says, thanks for this. She likes this idea. She never thought about it this way.
yeah, inserting and I always tell my story, other than the vegetables there, is it's not there's some things in our lives that cause us stress, and I used to never make up my bed. But when I go into my room always looked a mess because my bed wasn't made. So it was something that caused me, a little stress. So I love audiobooks, and so I'll turn on my audiobook and I'll, start to listen, jump out of bed and do what I need to do. But, for me, I had to kind of give myself kind of like a reverse habit thing. I said, before I could turn on my audiobook, I have to make up my bed. So it was almost like my reward. I couldn't get my reward until I made up my bed. So now my bed making is automatic. And that is definitely true. I make up my bed every day and I get to listen to my audiobooks. So habit stacking is a good way. James Clear is the author. There are many wonderful books on habits. There's the Badass Habit book, and there's so many others. But if you want to start learning more about the psychology of habit, read more about it. It's a fascinating way to learn more about yourself too. All right. We always have to go in the aisles, and of course, in the aisles, we want to be mindful first and foremost. The first place, where could we be mindful first when we're looking at a food label? Where do we need to look first? Come on. Hopefully you're getting it. You remember.
Is it serving size?
Serving size. Ding, ding, ding. It's knowing the serving size and what is your portion. Because the serving size here is 1 cup. And if this was cereal, you're pouring it into a bowl. You pour 3 cups of cereal every time. Could that be one of the places you can make some changes or adjustments? So it's all about serving size and your portion. Very important. So it's also, if you shop for a family, most of us that shop for others, making sure we're, keeping their health goals in mind, and try to always shop with a list so that you are not picking things that are could be detrimental to your goals, especially when you notice sales. And if you have any other tips for shopping so that you can be more mindful, throw them in the chat so others can see what you like to do so that you can always come out of the store and have a successful list for your goals. So throw that in the chat for one another so everyone can share and learn from each other. So we always want to have great items that help us to meet our goals. Something sweet in the house like halos for those sweet tooth moments. Something rich and creamy like nut butters and yogurt for when we, just want something that's rich. Maybe some alternatives to dips and for crackers and pita and things like that. You can have the sweetened peppers. So you could use those as dips also. Alternative grains that help you with lots of protein, like our quinoa and our beans. And then convenience. So we don't have to eat out as much. We could get rotisserie chicken or something like that to have ready to go if we don't have time to cook. So it's important to be prepared. And that goes to one of those P's, which is planning, so that you're able to satisfy that desire with something good. These are some good basic pantry staples to have on hand. And
We
of
got two
course,
comments, Leslie,
yeah.
around that. Julia shared, don't go to the grocery store hungry, right?
Yeah.
And it leads to impulse purchases, sometimes not your best choices. And, even with the list, right?
Definitely. I think that's number one.
Yeah, don't go hungry, right?
Don't go
And
hungry.
and Katrina shared that she started shopping online and having her groceries delivered, so she doesn't overshop and shop when she's hungry. That's good. Carla and
Mhm.
I agree with Katrina. She does that too. So
Yes, and when you shop online, it keeps you on budget because you can add and remove things in your cart. It's a fantastic way to shop. And most stores now also have like you could do it on your phone. You could shop while you're in store on your phone and scan on your own. And then that also helps to keep you on budget too. So that's a great way. I love the don't go hungry. That is so so true.
and then along with budget, online too, it shows you the specials and the sales and stuff, right
Mhm.
there electronically.
Yeah, and it's beneficial, no matter who you're shopping with, to plan according to those sales, because especially if you're watching your budget, it also gives you variety. So you can, if one day tomatoes are on sale, next week potatoes are on sale, next week cucumbers are on sale. So you can always stock up on those items and get that variety in your diet. And I wanted to point out one thing that I just think is fabulous, that Giant now offers, if you purchase items with guiding star ratings, right now it's a little Apple now with the stars, but if you purchase items with guiding star ratings, you get 2 times of Flex Rewards dollars in your account. So if you don't know what Flex Rewards is, it's where you spend, I think you get $1. Oh, I forget how to do it. That's terrible. But you get money off. So you could get like, $5 off your groceries. But if you purchase Guiding Stars, which are the healthier items, you get double rewards. I mean, it's a fantastic program. So it's a great way to incentivize more healthy eating. So if you're in Giant, look for the guiding stars and start purchasing products like that. And then you can even get more off on your grocery bill. One of the other things that I like to purchase is these plantains, the Goya plantains, for that sweetness with your meal. You could pop them in the microwave. They're simple and easy, and they add that little bit of sweetness so that later you don't have that sweet tooth. Because that's one of the things with mindfulness. Sometimes we don't eat enough through the course of the day, and we may not be as satisfying as we want to be. And then we end up doing a lot of snacking at night with that sweet tooth. So, adding something a little bit, apples to your salad or something like that, gives you that sweetness in your meal, and helps to keep the sweetness down for later. And of course, we always want to strive for that balance. We talked about this last week in meal planning. Half plate produce all the time, trying for that. And then understanding your hunger cues. We talked about that in the beginning. So looking at the hunger scale, this is something that you could pop up on your refrigerator, on your pantry, wherever you're going. Is this an emotional hunger? It's something that can stop you, right? It's something that's colorful. You could put it up there and say, where do I fall on the scale? Am I really hungry? Should I be eating, or should I get something to drink, or should I go for a walk? Should I take some time to meditate? And that's where you can insert those new habits. So each one of us is different, but mindfulness is kind of like a big, it's a big topic, but we each have to find our way where it works best for us to insert new behaviors. So also when you're practicing mindfulness, it's about how you're eating, so where you're eating, slowing down, because it takes 20 minutes to feel full. Many times we eat so quickly and we don't even give our body a chance to catch up with our brain so that we know that we're really truly full. And it's about using the senses, making your food as attractive as possible every day, and knowing every day doesn't have to be this fantastic gourmet day, but making your food look attractive, the smell, the touch, the taste, all of those textures and smells are very important to how we approach eating. And so we want to make sure that we're seeing our food, we're eating in a good place, we're not watching television, we're focused on the meal. And we're focused on those that we're eating with, if we are eating with others, not scrolling, because if you're scrolling on your phone or watching TV, your senses are taken to a different focus, and you may not be focused on if you're really full. So it's important to kind of be able to focus on, how you're feeling as you're eating, and not, focused on the technology that's around us.
So we have a question/comment. So what time you consume your calories makes a difference? Late night eating makes your body work harder?
Well, if you're kind of like a standard 9 to 5, yes. And you're going to bed at night and sleeping overnight, yes. Because you want to make sure that you are letting your food digest, and it's recommended definitely 2 hours before bed, kind of, letting go of eating and drinking. But again, hunger cues are important. If you haven't eaten enough and you're hungry, not eating enough can keep you up. So it can keep you up at night. There are different scenarios that can happen overnight if your glucose levels drop. So you want to make sure that you're eating enough throughout the day so that you don't feel the need to eat at night. Yeah, that's a good question. Excellent question. All right, so someone mentioned a snow day. You could be snacking a lot. And this is that one note snacking here, just those pretzels or that popcorn that we talked about last week, or those chips, that one note thing. Make it special. Doesn't have to be this beautiful. No, you could just put some fruit on the plate, a handful of popcorn, a little bit of cheese, and make it a little snack picnic so that you have a variety of tastes and textures, crunchy, creamy, sweet, savory on a plate. It could be as simple as just, some toast with a spread, topping it off with some fruit or veggie, or just having some crunchy vegetables and some fruit on the side, to keep that snack, to prohibit the one note snacking, because your body will keep wanting more of this, and you'll never feel full and satisfied. You'll just keep wanting more. So even when you're making a snack, try to think of the plate as you make the snack. Don't just go for one note items, because it's usually going to be here in the grain section. So you want to give yourself some grace. That's that patience. It's been said that when we eat, there can be 200 decisions that go into creating a meal, from the time that we make the purchase to the time it makes it to our plate. So you want to be mindful of those choices that you're making, and give yourself some grace and be patient, because There's no one in this world has a perfect diet. No one. So you want to give yourself some grace and be kind to yourself in the way that you speak and behave around food. So I want to be mindful of your time. So please feel free to join Giant in any other classes that we have. The more you immerse yourself in the nutrition education, the more you can find the plan that works best for you. We also have a Facebook group, and then we have a podcast also, and you can find that on giantfood.com /nutrition. And again, my name is Leslie Jefferson, and thank you so much for having me yet again. I'm going to stop sharing at this moment. Let's see if I can make it happen.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you. Really gives us something to be mindful about, right? Something to think about. Thank you for all the tips, though. That help, that habit stacking. That's I think that's for just in general, in the time that we're in with mental wellness in general. So that's all around good. So
definitely.
We have several thank yous. We have a congrats, Leslie. We did share with Katrina about your promotion. So congratulations. Good information. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining and being engaged. You all make these a success. So thank you for just yearning for more information and learning and how to be healthy and about wellness. So before we go tonight, your reminder, handy dandy reminder, we'll be sending out an evaluation. Please give us your feedback there for a chance to win a $25 gift card. If you need the recording, it's available upon request at wellness@pgparks.com. And join us for our last workshop of the month on January, New Year, New You. Just make a note that this next week it's on Tuesday and not on Wednesday. So we'll be coming back together on Tuesday, January the 25th from 6 to 7. And we also just wanted to remind you of another virtual opportunity. Our Dine, Learn, and Move program is back, starting us out for the year 2022. That's going to be on January the 26th from 6 to 7:30. And it's titled See the Year in a Whole New Way. So you'll be able to see more information about how to register for that in the follow-up email on tonight. So again, always great to have you, Leslie, and thank you all for joining us. Hope you all have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For more videos to help you make healthier choices, visit the Department of Parks and Recreation's online resource center at pgparks.com or the Health and Wellness Virtual Library at wellness.pgparks.com. Until next time, be healthy, be well.